Hey, what's up? Let me just go live. All right. Hey, everybody. So, my name is Michael Music. I am 23 years old. I'm outside of Philadelphia, and I'm going to be talking about Think and Grow Rich, right? I've been reading this book for some time now. It's been my third time sort of sharing a conversation and going through the book, which has been a huge help just for me to realize like what is the reason that this book has made more millionaires than any other book out there. And now today, so I'm wrapping up the six basic fears, and I'm going to be talking about one really critical uh, component to the six basic fears. So this is outside of the 13 principles to success. And this is what he calls the devil's workshop. All right. So it's going to be, a really serious conversation today. He calls this the seventh basic evil in the world. Okay. And I'm just going to read. So he says, in addition to the six basic fears, there is another evil by which people suffer. Okay, and he actually explains that it cannot be classed as a fear. It is more deeply seated and more often fatal than all of the six fears. Okay, so this is even, we talked about the fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and fear of death. He's saying that this is worse than all six of those fears. And for want of a better name, let us call this evil susceptibility to negative influences. Okay, so, this is a lot of people get attracted to negativity, right? They thrive in it. How many, relatives that are addicted to watching the news? And why is the news so addicting to them? Because it's so negative. Okay. Why does the news post these bad stories? Because they find that those stories get the highest ratings and TV viewerships, right? These people are susceptible to negative influences. So it's that's the conversation today. There's a few more things I want to keep reading and then share some thoughts on it. So he says that men who accumulate great riches always protect themselves against this evil, but the poverty stricken never do. Those who succeed in any calling must prepare their minds to resist the evil. So, if you are reading this philosophy for the purpose of accumulating riches, you should examine yourself very carefully to determine whether you are susceptible to negative influences. Okay, so now this is where self analysis comes into play. And that's what's so important about this book because the more that you can analyze yourself, see where your weaknesses are, the more on the way you are towards your goal that we wrote down in the first principle, which was desire. So if you actually neglect this self-analysis, you will forfeit your right to attain the object of your desire. All right, so you know we're going to do this tomorrow. We're going to go through a self-analysis test and really dig deep into what questions you need to be asking that you may not be aware of. Right at the end of the day, it's the truth that we're after, not to feel good and feel confident like I am enough and I'm going to achieve my goals. Right? No, we're looking for the truth. Right? Where am I falling short in terms of my goals and moving forward and following my plan of action, and what do I need to do about it? So he goes on to say like you can protect yourself against highway robbers, because the law provides organized cooperation for your benefit. But the seventh basic evil is more difficult to master because it strikes when you are not aware of its presence, when you are asleep and while you're awake. Right? Why is this such a difficult thing to combat because people don't even realize that the enemy, right? The susceptibility to negative influences is even a problem. They think it's great that they constantly watch the news. They think that they are doing, the right thing, and they don't even realize how detrimental it is to them in gaining riches because their mind is filled with negativity. All right, so think about it like this. Right, we're going to go back. No fewer than 100 times does Napoleon Hill say the secret has been revealed to the on these pages. Okay, he says that moreover, the weapon, the susceptibility to negative influences, is intangible because it consists of merely a state of mind. This evil is also dangerous because it strikes in as many different forms as there are human experiences. All right, so simply put, something I discovered throughout this book was that, a individual's state of mind is essentially what is going to determine their success or their failure. And this too is a state of mind, being susceptible to negative influences. Okay, so he says, finally, sometimes it may enter your mind through well meant words of one's own relatives. At others, it it bores from within through one's own mental attitude, but always it is as deadly as poison, even though it may not kill as quickly. Okay, so we're talking about Think and Grow Rich. Why does this book make more millionaires than any other book out there? We talked about all the good things, right? Desire, faith, auto-suggestion, specialized knowledge, and all those principles that are going to help you and make you a better person. But we got to talk about the fact that there are going to be enemies that stand in your way, and those enemies are not real people, right? They're negative. It's negative thinking. It all comes down to the way that you think. Okay. Now, this is even worse, right? I'm not putting this out there, but this is even worse than being attacked by highway robbers, burglars, etc., because the law at least protects you from them and you can find justice in court, right? This is something that, if you're not aware of, it's going to control you for the rest of your life unless you do something about it. Okay, so he says now how to protect yourself against negative influences. Okay, so to protect yourself against negative influences, whether it's of your own making or the result of activities of negative people around you, recognize that you have a willpower and put it into constant use until it builds a wall of immunity against negative influences in your own mind. Okay, so what is he talking about? He's talking about the fact that we can hold through concentration of will, our definite major purpose on the screen of our mind. And the idea here is, can you, fill your mind up with this obsessional desire so that negativity doesn't have any room in your mind and in your thoughts, right? That is the goal here. And it really goes back to the first principle, which is actually definiteness of purpose. And if you don't have a definite purpose, if you don't have something to really fight for and believe in, and honestly have a reason for being here, living, then what's going to happen? Your mind's not going to be filled with something, and what's going to come in? Negativity and negative influences, which some people may see like, oh, that's whatever. Who cares if some negativity gets into my thoughts? But you don't realize it's going to start as a tiny seed and grow into doubt and grow into fear, and truly is what's keeping you in poverty. So okay, he says, recognize the fact that you and every other human being are by nature lazy, indifferent, and susceptible to all suggestions with harmonized with your weaknesses. Recognize that you are by nature susceptible to all the six basic fears and set up habits for the purpose of counteracting all these fears. Right? So, what habits can I begin to develop so that the six ghosts of fear are no longer allowed in my state of consciousness. He says, recognize that negative influences often work on you through your subconscious mind. Therefore, they are difficult to detect, and keep your mind closed against all people who depress or discourage you in any way. That's a bold statement. Okay, so let's dissect that, right? Recognize that, negative influences are in your subconscious mind. That's why they're so hard to detect, right? You may not even realize. I may not even realize that I have these weaknesses or I have these fears because they're so deeply planted in my subconscious mind. Now, another bold statement: keep your mind closed against all people who depress or discourage you in any way. Right? Can you protect your energy so that people that are negative, that don't want you to succeed, aren't even in your realm of consciousness or in your state of mind, right? They're not even a part of your world. Okay. He says this too: clean out your medicine chest, throw away all pill bottles, and stop pandering to colds, aches, and pains and imaginary illnesses. Deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act for yourself, right? Can you surround yourself, or who can you surround yourself with that will cause you to think and act for yourself and your own wants and needs, and will help you, not achieve what they have intended for you, but actually achieve what you want to do in your life? Do not expect troubles, as they have a tendency not to disappoint. And without doubt, the most common weakness of all human beings is the habit of leaving their minds open to the negative influence of other people, right? So, do I have this habit of leaving my mind open to the negative influence of other people? And, the truth is it people that I consider close friends, relatives, and family, right? Because, you know, sometimes the your worst enemy can be the people closest to you. So, but that's interesting. Just becoming aware of it. It's like, the most common weakness that we as human beings have is leaving our minds open to the negative influences of other people. So, I will admit that has, definitely been in my way personally. And now that I'm realizing, it's like, okay, now can you set up the habit so that you close your mind to the negative influences of all others around you? All right. Now, to wrap things up, he says this weakness is all the more damaging because most people do not recognize that they are cursed by it. And many who acknowledge it neglect or refuse to correct the evil until it becomes an uncontrollable part of their daily habits. So, what happens if you do not correct this evil? Right? What happens if you do not correct your habit of leaving your mind open to to the negative influence of others? Right? It will become a daily part, a uncontrollable part of your daily habits. Now, to avoid those who wish to see themselves as they really are, right, there's going to be a self analysis test that we're going to go over. And he suggests to read the questions and state your answers out loud so that you can hear in your own voice. This will make it easier for you to be truthful with yourself. Okay, so that's going to be the conversation tomorrow. We're going to talk about a self analysis test, questions, and really dig deep and become aware of some things that I may not even realize that are in my way of thinking now. But this was a critical part of this book, right? And I get that it's at the end. It may be glanced over, but the idea that the seventh evil, it's even worse than all the fears that he states that. And this seventh evil that you know leaving my mind open to negative influences. And so, what's the flip side of the coin? How can we stop that? Well, it comes down to the first principle, which is having a definite major purpose, right? What am I truly here for? What is my definite major purpose for being alive? And what is the goal that I'm going after? So, this is not light conversation to have, but it is, honestly, to me, this is possibly one of the most important conversations that I've ever had. So I want to thank you for watching. I look forward to talking about these self-analysis questions in the next episode. And I'll leave you with this until we meet again in time and space. Bye, everybody, for now. Peace out.